Chapter 3 Hardships. Kubra Ture ran for many days and nights, only stopping to rest for a little while at a time. She was foiled to keep running by her fear of being caught by Queen Tati's guards. They were given orders to only return with Kubra's head. Queen Tati had realized during late Butler Tito's burial that he was a slave as well, born of the Ture clan, a true and direct descendant of the Tures. He was adopted by a noble family because his mother was a dear friend to the woman the late Tito called mother. This strengthened her resolve to find and kill Kubra, as there was a strong chance that the child she was carrying might be the one to fulfill the much dreaded prophecy. Kubra just had to die with her child. Queen Tati had the guards swear that they will not come back unless they kill Kubra. Queen Tati forced them to remain in exile so long as Kubra is alive, and that they can only come back when they can present her with Kubra's head. The queen waited with bated breaths for news of Kubra's death, while she continued executing her plan of diluting the Ture lineage, all the while ensuring that she takes more precautions to prevent the mistakes of the past from recurring. As Kubra continued on her journey, she ran into a very deep forest on the pathway to Kingdom Jeli. To her surprise, she had passed a great many outlying villages without stopping for food or help. She was in fear that there might be informers lurking everywhere. She knew she could not and should not trust anyone. Even when she was warned about the forbidden forest, her fear of being caught by the guards outweighed any other fear that she might have. She did not care, as she was willing to take her chances with the evils of the forest if it was the only opportunity she had to escape. She believed the legend of the forbidden forest to be a myth, so she decided to carry on with her journey into the forest. As she traveled deeper into the forest, it began to dawn on her why the forest was called the Forbidden. The place was the stuff of nightmares, as it was the airiest place that Kubra had ever been in. As she went on, she kept on hearing hollowed sounds and noises that petrified her, but she kept on going. She was going deeper into the forest when she suddenly bumped into a woman who had blood dripping from her mouth down to the rest of her body. The woman had a cold stare which sent chills down Kubra's spine, and she walked towards the poor slave as if to attack her. But she abruptly stopped mid-stride, then suddenly let out a hallowed scream as if she had seen the devil himself, and just set out, running away from Kubra as fast as she could. What a strange woman, Kubra thought to herself as she stood shivering with fear from the events that have just transpired. As she continued walking deeper into the forest, her hunger began to become even more unbearable. She had ignored it a while as the guards were hot on her trail, but now that she was deep in the forbidden forest and the threat of being caught by them had lessened, her body had succumbed to it and it was relentless. She realized that she had not eaten in days and will need to do something about that if she is to survive this journey. Kubra was now desperately searching around the forest as she traveled to see if she could forage for food. As she walked on, she came across the same woman who had tried to attack her earlier on. She was bent over a fresh deer carcass, biting away at its flesh like a wild animal, all the while murmuring to herself. The woman had blood and dirt all over her face and hands. Even her clothes were waxed dirty with blood and dirt. She sat by an almost derelict hut, which was surrounded by trees and bushes, shouting and laughing to herself. She froze and went silent as soon as she saw Kubra. Kubra also stood, transfixed by fear, staring at the woman as she pointed her long weary finger with the longest black nail at her, still muttering incoherent words at her. Kubra could not understand a word she was saying, but she noticed another unusual feature that the woman possessed. Instead of having 5 fingers, the woman had 6, so was her other hand and toes. She also had the longest and blackest nails that Kubra had ever seen. The way she was eating the raw meat made Kubra wonder what kind of creature she was. Despite her fear, she decided to approach the woman and offer to help start a fire to cook some of the meat. Some of the remains of the deer that the strange woman was eating still lay at her feet. The woman told her that she was a witch, hoping that this would scare Kubra away and she would be on her way, but Kubra refused to be deterred. The witch made several attempts to drive her away but later gave up and sat watching her whilst she scrambled around trying to start a fire. When she was done cooking the meat, she sat to eat her meal. Before she could finish her first small bite of meat, the witch, acting totally deranged, jumped on her and grabbed the whole meat and threw it. She began chasing Kubra away, violently pushing her away from her presence. This time, she spoke the same language as Kubra. "Go away! I don't want to hurt you and that thing in you. I am a witch and not the good kind. So just go away," yelled the witch. Upon hearing this, Kubra instinctively put her hand over her belly, as if to protect her unborn child. She looked at the witch and momentarily wondered how she knew she was pregnant. She had to quickly remind herself that the woman was a witch after all. "I do not have anywhere else to go. I am running away from my kingdom as my queen has ordered for me to be killed when found," Kubra pleaded with her. "You think I do not know that? Just go away, or you are bound to suffer the same fate here as well, if not worse," the witch insisted. Kubra did not understand why she said that. "You stay here, you will tempt me and my friends to feed on you and that thing in you during a full moon. And I don't want that. It calls for a fight with a spirit I have sworn never to cross path with again. So go away. Be gone," she yelled, making Kubra shudder, moving backwards. She was still staring at the witch. "Please, have a little mercy. You are my only hope," Kubra pleaded with the witch. The irony of her situation was not a loss on her, but her instincts just told her that she was better off in the forest than out there in the world. "I couldn't go to the neighboring kingdom. I know they are patiently waiting for my arrival at all the borders, so they can kill me," she continued pleading. The witch ignored her pleas. She entered her hut murmuring to herself, exasperated at Kubra's insistence to stay with her. She expected that she'll be gone by the time she comes out, but she heard noises outside, and when she came out to see what was going on, she found Kubra cleaning up the place. She rushed for her, beside herself with anger. She violently grabbed her by the arm and opened her mouth wider than Kubra had ever imagined possible, as if to swallow her whole. Her teeth were big and sharp, and her eyes also grew bigger and were the color of blood. Kubra was scared as she had never been before. "Would you rather stay here and have us feed on you and your baby?" She breathed heavily. Her voice was very deep and strange. It sounded like a sound from the hallowed pits of hell, if she was ever to hear such. But despite her fear, Kubra somehow was not swayed by the witch's threats. She figured if the witch had wanted to kill her, she would have done so by now, no matter what explanation she gave. Kubra was convinced that her only refuge was here, in this forest, with her, and something told her that the witch would never let any harm come to her, whilst under her watch. "You won't allow that," Kubra told the witch. "I know you won't." Upon hearing that, the witch closed her mouth, changing back to her normal form. She went back into her hut, perplexed at Kubra's reaction. Kubra continued cleaning. She was also able to cook some food for the both of them, and she took the witch's own to her in the hut. However, when she entered the hut, she saw the witch lying next to some human bones and was momentarily taken aback by this sight. She immediately placed the food and rushed out of the hut, waking the witch from her slumber. The witch came out to her and found Kubra crying to herself, her hands wrapped around her small frame. It was getting dark. The cool breeze had started to blow, making Kubra feel all cold. The witch couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She walked out of her compound into the woods to look for some clothes she can cover her with, while Kubra followed her. The place was already scary enough as there were so many unnerving sounds coming from everywhere, and she did not think she could bear to sit there alone without the witch. Kubra was starting to feel more comfortable and secured with the witch around, and she wasn't about to let the witch go away and leave her there by herself. "Stay here. I'll be right back," the witch ordered as Kubra followed her, all teary-eyed. "I cannot. I am scared," Kubra moaned, firmly holding onto the air of the witch's dirty wrapper. "It's not safe out there. Around you, I feel safe. I trust you," Kubra said, reaching out to hold her hand. The witch took a look at the shivering warm hand on her and then back at Kubra, surprised by what she had just proclaimed. Kubra was the first human to ever be this close to her, and what she just said tugged at her heartstrings. and she could not help the little tender feeling that she felt creep in towards her.